Getting here with Gardening Simplified. Should you put a greenhouse in your plans for your future gardening? Let's take a look. When talking about greenhouses, or we say greenhouses, that's what a lot of us call them. This would actually be a high tunnel or a polytunnel. This is the one that I have a video to where this is do-it-yourself one. And with the high tunnels, you don't have the same perspective as far as temperature control as greenhouses. Now, either one that's unheated, it's the temperature can get really low. But I notice in my polytunnels, and I'm not familiar with the greenhouses. I know my neighbor's got a little one, and it seems to hold the heat better, but it's really sealed up, so that makes a difference. If any air transfer, like you might have, like around the doors, you got gaps and stuff like that. Anywhere the air can transfer, that's going to cause a situation to where you're going to transfer the temperature quicker. Now, it's 34 degrees outside. I've just opened this up because it's already 45 in here, which even at 34 degrees outside, these plants that are in here, they'd be unaffected by it. But when we're looking at this thermometer, it has a high and a low. Now, yesterday, it got down to just under 35 or 25 degrees in here. So it was below 24 outside. But since I've reset this one day, I didn't catch the sun coming out because when it's cloudy, it doesn't heat up quite as quick. A lot of times I can even leave them closed all day, or at least my big one, because it's got 40% shake off. But you can see it got to 106 degrees, and that was just in a few hours of sunlight. So the advantage, if you're going to do a greenhouse or a polytunnel, is to warm up the area quicker, and it makes stuff grow good. Now, I have my cabbage in here, which it could stay outside, but sometimes in the winter we might get some really cold days, and it's real easy to cover in here because I don't even put hoops. I just lay some roll cover over the top, and the ground heat stays in, and it does fine. Now, celery, and a lot of you probably don't grow celery. I mean, but if you have celery, it takes cold real well. And this is right next to the edge, so it's more likely to get cooler over here. But when you grow this celery, and you could blanch it and stuff, but I find that it's much better this way. But I just come out here whenever I need some celery. I just cut some stalks off, and I use my celery. I mean, I probably got way more than I need, and we do freeze dry some and powdered it up, and that way we can use it in different recipes and such as that. But we'll get back to the greenhouses. Now, if you're not heating it, and here's our fabric. I just keep 1 ounce fabric in here. You can see it's not real thick. It usually does the job. But whenever you're growing something that's more of a warm season crop, then you can't do it just say I'm going to get a greenhouse and put it in there. What happens is the temperature drops, and it doesn't take but once. If you can't cover it and keep it warm, then the temperature drops, and you lose it. Now, I have some spinach in here. Now, I have spinach out in the garden too, and of course this is younger, but it grows good because it warms up in here quick in the day. It likes sunlight, but spinach can grow in the shade, and the sun is coming up over more in the south, and you can see the sunlight is getting to the spinach on this end, but as it goes down, it doesn't. Now this is all doing good down to this point right here, and you can see how small these are, and that's because I have my tomatoes, which I'm going to uncover this morning, my tomatoes and my cucumbers, and we can see how they're doing while we're out here. But you can't just put tomatoes and cucumbers in the greenhouse and expect them to survive, because or a high tunnel, because they gotta stay warm. They can't, 40 degrees is probably fine, but you can see my cucumbers down here. If this was in the springtime, these would probably be a couple foot off the ground with the amount of time that they've had. But I'll go ahead and uncover this, and then we'll take a look. Okay, we have all our covers off, and which our cucumbers are still doing okay, as far as we don't have any signs of situation where there's stress, maybe aphids or something coming in. The main thing is, when I get an opportunity, I pull these row covers off, because if you don't, you keep a whole lot of moisture in there, and it does cause a little bit more problem with the growth. Now, these tomatoes, I hadn't even pruned them at the ground. Now, it's being the last day of the year, and we've got tomatoes coming on. Now, these should have been started a little bit earlier, but this was kind of an afterthought to grow them this late. But it's getting time to start harvesting tomatoes and having fresh tomatoes, which is great. Now, there is a little bit of leaf damage. Some of this is where I've broken a limb, maybe with my row cover. But you can see these tomatoes. I want to show you kind of the deal with the sunlight in here too. You can see all these tomatoes on this side. Now, we do have some tops that's drooping down that started growing and come out on this side. But we're still putting on tomatoes. These are up high, so that tells you it's still producing, even with this cooler weather. But when we go around to this other side, you can't see anything, because being the sun angle is so low coming across here, this side's primarily getting the light. Now, there is a little bit, you could say maybe this is blight or something. This could be caused by the extra moisture from the covers being on. The best way to do that would be to probably trim it off. I'm letting them fight for themselves. We want to see how well they're going to do. But they're putting on a whole lot of blooms. And being you don't have bees in here all the time, because unless the sides are really rolled up, they don't come in this area. We just come by, and it's just a matter of tapping the flowers. It can be as simple as putting up the row protection and letting that row protection shake the tomato vine and everything. But as you can see, as we're going down here, we've got a strand of icicle lights that we added here, and we've got 2 strands down each side of just string lights that radiate the heat up, and that really helps these plants stay warm, because it was 29 in here the other day, and at 29 degrees these would not survive, or they would not survive very well, and we'll take a look at that too. Now, I have my lights run down here. Now, before I put my lights up there, I had my lights run in here, and I might go ahead and run some more, especially if we're looking like we're getting a cold day. We'll run some more down there on the bottom, keep that warm. And over here with our citrus, now those has been following the channel for quite a while. These were a couple years old, planted from seed. A few of these were actually air layered, like this Meyer lemon, Now here it is in December. We got lemon ripening there. That's ready to pick. We've got another Meyer lemon in there that's ready to pick. But these are doing really well ever since we potted them up towards the end of the summer and moved them all in here. Now we have had a little issue with some leaf miners, which is common for citrus, but not very much. It's easy to combat and take care of that. Now we do have another banana pup that we took off that's doing good, and it couldn't do that unless you have some place to protect it. Now the main thing that about the greenhouse is that it keeps the winds off. Now when we get cold, Saturday morning we woke up and, like I say, it's around 23, and there was no wind at all, which that gives you heavy frost on your plants. The day before, it was cold, pretty close to the same temperature, but we had a bunch of winds too. I think that day it was probably around 27. But the winds, even if we put row protection on, it's breathable, so it's going to cause you a situation. Well, with your greenhouse or your polytunnel, it's going to keep those winds off. So when you put row protection, the ground heat comes up. Whatever heat's absorbed from, let's say, your dark pots and dark soil, stuff like that, it's going to radiate out. And so it's going to do, everything's going to perform better. These citrus trees, now this is my single seed challenge from 2022. Now I've got the limb pulled down here. In fact, I'm thinking about I'm going to trim it off and bush this out more. But this grapefruit was grown from seed. It's now probably about 1.25 inches at the trunk. My Meyer lemon that's up here, now we've harvested all the lemons off of this one, but the other lemons were actually air layered from this one, and we're planning to take some more off this orange. Now we've harvested all the oranges, but understand that citrus trees are evergreens, just like our bananas are evergreens. So they have to be able to grow through the winter if they're going to do good. You can drop the leaves, but that's going to stress them more, and it's going to affect your fruit production. The other thing about greenhouses is, now this is the same cabbage that's in the other greenhouse, and this is doing so much better. And the reason for that is the other greenhouse, because sun's so low, it gets shaded from the big polytunnel, and it doesn't get near as much light. These down here at the end, and of course, look like we've got ants that they like to come in too, and they'll attack around the plant, getting something from the roots or something, and they'll end up killing some of those. But these plants do so much better in here and grow good than they would outside, because they're not subjected to quite as cold of temperatures. Now when I check temperature in here and it's 29, the thermometer is up 6 foot in the air, so it's not the same temperature that's at ground level. Now that would be the same temperature that would be at the top of the tomatoes, but it's not going to be the same temperature that's down lower. It's a little warmer because you got ground heat, and especially if you keep the moisture up. As far as you're not going to get rain in your greenhouse, so you either got to, we use the drip system occasionally, but normally we do overhead watering with the wand. And we plant some of this stuff in here, like these bok choy, because they'll grow on so much faster. The only problem is with a lot of your varieties like Chinese cabbage, bok choy, Napa cabbage and stuff, when you get that extreme heat during the day, and then it cools down at night. The wide swings in temperature end up causing it to take and bolt early. So you have to harvest them quite a bit smaller. The same thing with lettuce, and this is a muscovine mix, but it's lettuce and a lot of different greens. It will do fine outside, pretty much. Now lettuce, a lot of times it'll hold in there way down close to 5 degrees. But a lot of these other greens and the lettuce, it's possible to get some burning on the tips of them. So if you want good looking lettuce, in your salad, you want a quality muscovine mix, then it's always better in the winter time to put it in some kind of polytunnel or greenhouse. Now over here we have our parsley. Now this is doing great, and it'll continue to do that way. It thrives. It's got nice big stalks. Now these have been cut a few times. You can see where the ends are, where we'll come in here and grab a bundle and cut them and use them or take them to the market. But they grow back fast because they're getting a lot of warmth and stuff. But when we talk about unprotected in the greenhouse, now these greens weren't never covered because they'll take it. But this volunteer cherry tomato plant that's in here, you can see it got most of it. Some of it that's down here real close to the ground, it probably got more ground heat, and it did fine. But this other part, it just toasted it, and that's the way the other tomatoes over there would look. And that's why I say it's important when you decide you're going to say, well, I'm going to get a greenhouse so I can grow in the winter or a polytunnel. It's possible, but you need to take these factors into consideration, because you don't want to fail. You want to make sure that you consider what you're going to have to do in order to grow plants in the winter. Because I'm in zone 8, and our winters don't get as cold as some further north. Now I do have some other plants out here that I'm growing that are warm weather plants, like the rhubarb. Starting it out now, it gives it almost like another year of growth, because it grows so long. It's not just starting out in the spring. It's actually started out in the winter, and then by springtime it's really got some size and some root structure to it. But all this stuff that you plan to do, and my avocado, which this is getting close to a year old. Now it doesn't look that great, but all these leaves that got damaged, this is damage from the sun last year. It started damaging them. Of course, they're starting to drop some of these leaves, and I'll probably come in and kind of clean it up. But without this heat, and the avocado, it needs to go. They only take, and I know there's some varieties they say are good down to 17 degrees. But if you can keep them comfortable, just like the citrus trees, you'll be able to get a nice crop off and grow nice. But anyway, I hope this gives you a little bit more information when you're considering maybe purchasing a polytunnel or a greenhouse. Don't think it's all roses and there's no work involved, because if your temperatures get low, then you've got to do something to either warm up your greenhouse, or you've got to do some heat as far as to get it taken care of that way. But anyway, thanks for watching. If you want to see more, of course, hit that subscribe, give her a big thumbs up. Enjoy that gardening experience.